The 20th century had come to a close, and the boxing world craved a new way to excite and engage fans. And in 2001, Don King, the legendary but controversial boxing promoter, came up with an idea to reignite excitement in one of the glamour divisions. King's masterstroke was a boxing round-robin tournament featuring the top middleweights, a chance to crown an undisputed champion. The victor would claim the WBC, WBA, IBF and vacant Ring Magazine belts to become the first undisputed middleweight king since Marvelous Marvin Hagler's reign from 1979 to 87. On top of that, they would receive a specially commissioned Sugar Ray Robinson trophy. The tournament featured William Joppy, Keith Holmes and Bernard Hopkins, and pound for pound star at the time Tito Felix Trinidad, who was moving up from light middleweight, having dominated since welterweight. Hopkins, known for his mind games, saw the opportunity to become a star and signed with Don King, overcoming his past reservations. He was first up and dispatched of Holmes in a 12-round decision. Meanwhile, Trinidad followed suit, adding another devastating knockout to his record as he dominated Joppy to become a 3-weight world champion.
Joppy went down to the body.
He's going to let William Joppy continue. Felix Trinidad with a sensational performance by the greatest finisher in the sport. You've been saying all along that Trinidad's style will be easier for you in the final than Joppy's would have been. Why?
One is because Joppy is a slappy type of guy, a cutie. Trinidad fights just like it is. He's right there like an alley fight. That's what I like. He's not backing up, and he's going to go against mano to mano. He's going to test his will against yours. That's the type of fight I am, that Philly fighter. It's going to be a lot of infighting with me in Trinidad, and we're going to see who's going to back up.
This set the stage for the final, a winner-take-all clash to become the undisputed middleweight champion. The build-up was now set for one of the biggest fights of the year. Hopkins, the master of pre-fight theatrics, took his opportunity in the first press conference, launching his psychological warfare by snatching a miniature Puerto Rican flag from Trinidad at the New York press conference and tossing its side to the ground. This act ignited tensions, solidifying Hopkins' role as the villain in the eyes of Trinidad and his Puerto Rican fans. The next press conference was in Puerto Rico itself, and Hopkins doubled down on his tactics, repeating the flag stunt in front of a furious crowd who wanted blood.
I know I'm an enemy's land. I'm playing chess, not checkers, and I know how to move my piece. I got up there, said what I said, did my famous throat slashing, dicks, heads coming off. Then Tito got up there. He said a couple of words and banged down, when you threw my flag, he broke the treaty. When you threw my flag, Spanish, it was crazy. They start throwing magazine reporters, they taking pictures, they looking at, so it seemed like everybody in the bleachers was coming. So Don King in the middle, Don waving the flag before he done this, hand raising, which he didn't get a chance to do, rather, before he attempted to do it. He's waving the flag, and this is on video, he's waving the flag. Tito broke, he broke the treaty, he ain't supposed to say nothing, but he home, right? I gotta counter that. I gotta do something so risky that it's gonna, I hope, be world news. Don was fighting me not to get, I grabbed the flag from his hand. We tussled 3-4 minutes, 3 seconds. When that flag hit that ground, Don telling me to back up. I'm pointing my finger at Tito. I snatched the flag out of Don's hand. His eyes opened up, everything just went, the fans from the front was already coming down. That's why my guys, Joe Lear, was saying, come on, let's go.
Security scrambled to protect him as he ultimately had to rush to the airport with his team to escape the angry mob in Puerto Rico. However, B-Hop knew his goal had been achieved, of unsettling Trinidad and putting the pressure of a nation on him to win on fight night.
To send a message. And I wanted him to go through those 4 or 5 weeks left. I wanted him to think about me every time he preparing for that fight, because someone's gonna remind him. So now, taking that strategy of art of war, because I want to fight a guy that's mad at me, not a guy that trained and planned and got a a skill set of how to beat me. Give me that angry man every day. I love the angry guy because he's going off emotions and I'm going off intellect.
The fight was scheduled for September 15th, 2001. However, due to the horrific events of 9/11, the fight was postponed for 2 weeks. Boxing, like everything else, took a backseat, and there was now the question if the fight should even go ahead. But the spirit of New York, its citizens and boxing fans everywhere refused to let terror win. And with a heavy heart and the city determined to heal, come September 29th, the fight night finally arrived. Emotions ran high, Trinidad sporting an NYPD hat, embodying the unity of a grieving city. In stark contrast, Hopkins, wearing an executioner's mask, stood for a different kind of fight. He was ready to shock the heavily favoured Trinidad and become a star. But now, let's delve into this historic bout and analyse how these contrasting styles played out in the ring.
Bernard Hopkins claims he wants to test Trinidad's chin in the first round. Trinidad's father says his son is going to knock Hopkins out in the first round. Sometimes all that is just talk. Sometimes it means real fireworks from the opening bell. Trinidad knocked Joppy down in the first. He knocked Vargas down twice in the first.
In round 1, the fight began tentatively, with both fighters feeling each other out, despite the round 1 KO promises pre-fight. Hopkins, though, was the more mobile boxer, staying on the balls of his feet and circling around Trinidad's dangerous left hook. And immediately, you could tell this was going to be a highly disciplined performance from Hopkins. And unlike the many expected, it was him that landed the first significant blow of the fight. However, from this one round alone, there's important notes I want you to take from Hopkins' strategy for the rest of this fight. This was to stay light on his feet, constantly moving, circling away from the left hook, maintaining a higher guard or holding the phone to block any incoming hooks, looking to duck and roll any of Tito's left hooks and counter, while using feints to draw out reactions and set up counters with the right hand, while targeting the left hand with the jab, disrupting Trinidad's defense and rhythm, while obviously looking for that final blow. Remember this for later.
Round 1 is a bit of a scuffle. Hopkins got a little of what he wanted and landed 2 right hands.
And showed that he's not going to be walking into that left hook if he can help it.
I need you to jab, okay? I need you to jab, all right? Jab for me, baby. Jab. Stay out of the corner. The fight yours in the center of the ring, and I want you to jab. Pump that jab. We worked on it, so let's pump it. Pump it and get the jab right. Hold your head up a little bit.
All right. The same thing you did in the first round. Let's continue that.
In the next round, the pattern continued, with Hopkins sticking to his jab and using feints to frustrate Trinidad. Following his trainer's advice, Fisher, Hopkins focused on setting up his power shots with his use of feints with his feet and with his lead hand.
Surprise.
Forcing Trinidad to react indecisively, as Bernard was able to land his jab consistently on Tito through the guard, and at the same time helping to narrow it. Towards the end of the round, went against the grain, moving to his right, a dangerous move considering this was what probably Tito wanted to set up his left hook. However, Hopkins was throwing jabs and lead hand feints while doing so, as he was intelligently looking to set up that right hand, lulling Tito into a position to set him up with a huge right hand.
You're in the ring with a guy, knowing that he's intent.
Hard right hand by Hopkins. Biggest blow in the fight. Trinidad momentarily stunned.
As Sun Tzu said, all warfare is based on deception. Hopkins expertly used his jab to target the left hand, taking it away and stepping forward so he could land the right hand on the button.
Found him in range. The punch was a little high. Trinidad might have been momentarily stunned, but took the punch well.
And from this round alone, Tito's corner were clearly concerned.
He didn't hurt you, did he? But don't get careless now. Don't get careless now at the moment. You gotta go that way. Make sure you're gonna put it.
Taking the advice from his corner, Trinidad started using his jab more, attempting to push Hopkins back and establish his own rhythm. Here, Big George Foreman confirmed in the commentary that Trinidad was keeping his right foot on the ball of his foot, ready to generate power for the left hook.
Trinidad is on the mark.
What do you mean by that, George?
He's on the ball of that right foot. When you see him up on his right foot like that, he's on the mark, getting ready to deliver like a track runner or something. Take off. You got to keep him off that position. You got to keep him out of that position.
And how? How do you keep him out of that position?
By moving to his left, so he always have to pick that foot up and set it down.
Towards the middle rounds, the fight is starting to pick up its pace, as Tito is taking more risks. However, Hopkins is still keeping his discipline with that right hand tight to his temple, ducking and rolling to his left,
so far,
slipping the jab and countering with his right. While, when Hopkins is on the inside, he takes the opportunity to land sharp hooks before getting out of danger.
Trinidad opens up, lands 2 power shots. Hopkins tries to fire back immediately. Trinidad misses with the right. Hopkins lands his own.
While he's continually jabbing the left hand at Tito, occupying it as he waits for the next opening.
Deal with Trinidad's punch.
No, that punch can't be dealt with, Larry. You got to stay smart.
Hopkins has completely neutralized the left hand of Trinidad.
While Tito's strategy is clearly to try push Hopkins towards the ropes. However, this was playing into Bernard's hands, as once again at the end of the fourth, he dropped his left hand just enough, getting ready to throw that left hook, only for Bernard to land another solid right hand on him.
Without that left hand, the right hand fails there.
Hard right hand by Hopkins, lands flush.
Don't let him out jab you. He wants to jab because he don't want you to jab. He don't like that jab. Jab with it. All right? Quick shot. Don't worry about the big shot. I want to see the quick shot.
Bernard Hopkins' trainer, Bowie Fisher, is not nearly as well known as Felix Trinidad Sr., but Fisher is a 73-year-old proven pro who knows every trick in the book and has done a brilliant job of training Hopkins throughout his career.
Going into round 5, Hopkins' trainer urged him to return using his strong snappy jab to neutralise Trinidad, and Hopkins came out feinting heavily with it before throwing out his jab and stepping to his left to avoid that left hook. As at this point, Trinidad seemed to only be constantly looking to set up his own power punches. Because he was doing so, he was also walking into Hopkins' right hand, and by this point, the fight was firmly in Hopkins' control.
Now Trinidad corners him, tries to step in, Bernard steps away.
Hopkins is outboxing Trinidad and he's winning most of the rallies.
Yeah, but Hopkins has used a lot of his footwork, legs up, moving around. That's not good.
He's got his back against the ropes. He's living dangerously. He's still outscoring Trinidad. He's landing 2 punches to every one for Trinidad.
Step.
They fight after the bell, and Hopkins dishes out twice as much.
By the midpoint of the fight, Hopkins was clearly in control. With Trinidad behind on points, questions arose about whether the 36-year-old Hopkins potentially was feeling the pace of the fight, as Trinidad was starting to get closer. And in round 6, Trinidad finally trapped Hopkins on the ropes, landing significant left hands.
By CompuBox numbers. Now Trinidad lands a big right hand against the ropes, but Hopkins steps away and lands in return. Remember Trinidad's amazing stamina. Hopkins lands a right, Trinidad lands a left. Felix is a marathon runner who builds the tempo from round to round, and he's trying to build it with the left hook right here. 4 straight left hands by Trinidad.
Nevertheless, Bernard remained composed as he utilised that high guard effectively to block any serious damage from the left hooks. The commentary team, particularly George Foreman and Jim Lampley, debated the direction of the fight, with George feeling Trinidad was getting closer, and Jim very much feeling the fight was in Hopkins' favour.
Hopkins blocked almost every one of those punches.
And there's There's no sign yet that Hopkins is wearing down.
Oh, yes, there are a lot of signs.
But Trinidad's cornering him. What are the signs that he's wearing down?
He went to his ring, to his corner, and laid his legs flat out. Trinidad is still sitting in a sitting position.
Hopkins looks pretty good here as he backs Trinidad up with a combination. A furious pace in round 6, by far the best round of the fight.
But despite the pressure from Trinidad, as I said, Hopkins continued landing his own punches, including a similar combination used in round 1. While his corner urged him to throw that right hand more, as when Trinidad got to his corner, he was clearly questioning his own performance and if he was ahead in the cards.
Trinidad stalking relentlessly, imposing mental pressure on Hopkins as he does on all of his opponents. Even when technically outgunned, Felix Trinidad is always coming.
Always coming. Good thing about Hopkins is he's not allowing Trinidad to get up on that right foot. He's making him keep it flat. That's what you want. If he's going to hit you, let him be out of position to do it good. Ooh, fainting.
Chopping right hand by Hopkins. The second one partially blocked. Crowd oohing and eyeing as Hopkins continues to score, exceeding the expectations of many.
In the next 2 rounds, they completely belonged to Bernard Hopkins, as he was outboxing him in all aspects, landing sharp right hand counters, beautiful combinations, and brilliant strategic footwork, keeping away from that left hand. And even George Foreman couldn't ignore Hopkins' dominance at this point.
Hopkins believes. Whether Trinidad will be able to beat the belief out of him remains to be seen, but right now Bernard is showing a multiplicity of skills as he continues to outbox Tito.
I don't believe what I'm seeing. I don't believe it.
And now Trinidad shuffles his own feet to try to dazzle Bernard, and Bernard says, "You shuffle a while, I'll hit you."
Well, for me, it's just a defensive discipline from Hopkins again, keeping his right hand up tight, and when in the pocket after throwing the right hand, was always defensively responsible, rolling after throwing the right hand to avoid the left hook before moving out to his right out of danger again.
Bernard lands a straight right hand up the pipe, and that gives him room to move off the ropes. And for the first time in the fight, Hopkins is grinning at Tito Trinidad.
He was able to hit him with the right hand and move out of the way.
And there's another big right hand. And again he moves out of the way.
Very smart. Didn't say, "I heard you, I'm going to get you some more." Hit you and get out of the way.
And another right hand for Hopkins. This is a cold, clinical, totally professional performance by a true professional prize fighter, Bernard Hopkins.
Here we see straight right hand, but Hopkins is not loading up on these right hands. He's throwing short, quick punches and getting out of the way of the return.
By this point, there was a sense of desperation which started to show in Trinidad's fighting style, as he probably knew himself at this point he was down in points. As the Puerto Rican started rushing in recklessly, trying to land that knockout punch. However, this recklessness left him open to Hopkins' right hand counters.
This is the determination of Felix Trinidad.
Trinidad is going to have to take some chances.
And it's being matched by the determination of Bernard Hopkins. What an awesome show. What a great, great fight as we come down the stretch in the 10th round.
Blood coming out of Trinidad's nose.
Bernard Hopkins won't take no for an answer. Clock still running. Trinidad running out of time. Most of the crowd on its feet as they watch the two fighters straight through.
And the perfect example of this once again came at the end of the round, where Hopkins landed a devastating right uppercut on the inside, hurting Trinidad, leaving him completely buzzed and unsteady on his feet. As Trinidad stumbled to his corner displayed their concern if he even had the ability to continue.
How you feeling, Tito? You okay? Can you fight another round? Can you fight another round? Let me know. Keep your hands up.
By round 11, a visibly shaken Trinidad looked out of sorts as he tried to get his feet under him, and even at one point falling over after a small shove from Bernard. Hopkins at this point looked like he was coming out for the first round again. And even George Foreman, who initially favoured Trinidad for most of the fight, acknowledged the tide had turned and if he should even come out for the last round.
Another huge round for Hopkins. Trinidad has landed maybe 2 punches in the round. Bernard is taking target practice.
I doubt if his corner will let him come out another round.
His daddy's still telling him he's winning.
No, his dad may have to tell him to sit it out. Hopkins is dangerous now. All of a sudden he's starting to smell victory and even a knockout. And he's patient with it.
Overwhelmingly pro-Trinidad crowd trying to lift their man. Hopkins just keeps pounding away.
And knowing Trinidad was the favoured fighter, Hopkins did not want to risk the chance of not going for it, and came out aggressively looking for the final blow.
He'll never quit. He'll never stop coming.
No retreat.
Oh, huge right hand. Huge right hand by Hopkins. Down goes Trinidad. I'm not sure Tito can get up. He's got the desire. He's never been knocked out. This fight is over. Steve Smoker stops it. No.
Bernard
Tito Trinidad comes in.
has done it.
He knocked out Trinidad.
Bernard Hopkins has put himself up there in the list of all the great middleweights.
Bernard Hopkins had done it. The underdog, the old man, had just beaten the pound-for-pound star to become the undisputed middleweight champion. The final setup was a spectacular move, which he had even used in the earlier rounds in the fight, and was risky in that matter, as he threw a long left uppercut to draw out Tito's deadly left hook. However, instead of the intention to land the left uppercut, he used it to help block the left hook while his right hand was still holding the phone, and this created the perfect opening for that powerful sharp right hook to land flush on Trinidad's chin, securing the knockout victory. And interestingly, this final sequence mirrored the setups used in round 1 and in round 6, showcasing Hopkins' strategic brilliance throughout the fight to download that information to use at a later point when Trinidad was hurt. And ultimately, he finished the fight with this well executed plan. Here is what he had to say after the fight, along with Emmanuel Stewart explaining the fault of Trinidad in this fight.
How were you able to avoid his potent left hand?
Well, Larry, you take the best weapon from the guy that they're using against you. If the guy has a gun, you get to the gun. You don't run from it because you got a better chance on smothering or got a better chance on getting to the gun. I had to take his left hand away from him and smother his shots and keep my defense up, a good defense. But I do have a good defense just as well as an offense. Trinidad is a left hook guy. That's all he had. And I've been watching him for years. Once I took his left hook away, and every time he set up, I watched his leg and his feet, and I knew to move to the opposite way.
All right, let's take a look at the last round at the knockout. Now, you knew he was weakening from several rounds before this, right?
Yes, I knew right about the 4th round when I knew I hit him with a good counter right hook, and he sort of dazed and he said, ugh. And I wanted to follow up, but not follow up recklessly, because I know he got a decent distance left hook, but he never hurt me, Larry. I mean it. He never hurt me. No shape, form in this fight.
You turned to me at one point and you told me Bernard Hopkins did his homework.
Yes, he was very well prepared coming into the fight. He did everything that he said that he was going to do. And I don't think that Tito will ever beat Bernard Hopkins. I mean, there should never be any rematch as far as I'm concerned. And I'll just have to say I'm very happy to have had all these great fights that Tito has given us throughout the years, because he's been a true warrior. But what Felix did tonight was try to get set to throw that left hook, and as he was squatting, trying to get in position, Bernard every time would hit him with a short right hand. And he had no other battle plan. It was just strictly the left hook, the left hook. And Bernard had too many other things that he was able to do, in addition to being physically a strong man.
Overall, this is a brilliant fight to watch and study. If not, it's a blueprint on facing an opponent whose best weapon is the left hook. And it's crazy to think that at 36 years old, Hopkins arguably went on to fight in even greater performances along with fighting for 16 years after this win into his 40s, beating legit light heavyweight champions. But for me, no doubt, this fight was the one that put him on the map, and possibly his greatest and most impressive of them all. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the fight. Do you think this was Hopkins' greatest performance? And what other fights would you like me to cover in the future? If you want more content like this, I recommend you check out one of these classic fights I've done in the past. Thank you so much for watching, and as always guys, I'll see you in the next one.
You ought to be a trainer in the corner because, you know, you got the blueprint of Bernard Hopkins and you read it well. Exactly, just what you said is what I was doing.